Welcome back to another feedback and review of a game of StarCraft 2. This is a 1-1-1 Tank Viking Push All-In review. As you can see, we have two Terrans that are playing each other. They are in the Gold League, around 3,000 R. If I'm mistaken, that's what that's saying here. With another at 2,500. So they're in that area where they are still learning to play the game. No worries, everybody is in their own positions and what's going on with the game, so don't worry about that so much. And of course, we want to make sure that we're helping everybody learn here. In a TVT, you'll notice there's some supply blocks. That always happens at the very beginning of the game. Every player, as a Terran, if you build your SCVs consistently, unless you build a supply depot before you get into your SCV production, or you mess up a specific timing, you're going to hit a second or so. So you can always ignore these first supply blocks. Generally speaking, unless they're egregious, I'm not going to get into that yet. And then you can see there's some more supply blocks later on, and the build goes on through. We'll visit this back after we go ahead and review the match. I haven't watched this at all, so we're going to see this together for the first time. This is, I'm going to go ahead and load up the game now. We're going to have, again, two Terrans playing 1v1. We have the red in the teal here, in the bottom right-hand corner. And in the upper left-hand corner, we have KurtMage, both of whom are playing Terrans. As you can see, KurtMage is making the slight adjustment to go ahead and throw down his SCV to the very top of his ramp, while his friend has placed it inside his mineral line. Now, things to note. Generally speaking, you want to wall the top of your ramp as a Terran for every race. The reason being is the supply depot has the ability to go up and down. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. This is a very important part of the game. The reason that you do that, okay, there is changes in builds, so let's stop there. As I said, I haven't actually seen these, so excuse my pauses and plays as needed. But you can see that this player has decided to put their supply depot in their mineral line / right next to their gas. This is good to deal with Hellions that make it into your base. If you don't do that and you make it so you wall up here, you make it so the Hellions never make it into your base because you just have a full wall. There is other advantages here. You can be slightly ahead on your production of it because you're going to have minerals coming in from that SCV that rallies into your mineral line. The difference is less than a second, maybe a second and a half. If you're really, really, really crisp, it's not really impactful long-term into the game. So generally speaking, it's better to just straight up wall over here until you're into a GM and you understand those differences. I'm not a GM. I cannot tell you enough about what those slight differences are, except for it speeds your build up ever so slightly, but that doesn't really help you if you get a Hellion run by and you mismanage it in any way, shape, or form. Now, we do have a difference between the players. We have the SCVs coming out late for both of them. They should have been building those, period, the whole time. It's reason being is that slight advantage you'd have gotten is gone. You wouldn't have ever gotten it because that SCV isn't there. You should be building an SCV. SCV production consistently and constantly is better than not. You are losing income, which eventually means you are behind in the game. You obviously got a gas before your barracks. That's perfectly fine, but you can wait for it. And getting your second refinery as your barracks is under construction is totally normal. Remember, SCV production, worker production of any variety for any race, you always want to be doing. On the other side of the map, we have a gas starting up. This looks more like a Reaper opening or a normal opener. The thing of it is if you're going to go into a factory very fast, you need to have this second refinery very early, or you need to skip the Reaper entirely. This is dangerous because if your opponent proxy Reapers, you are just in trouble. You're just going to probably game over. There is no scouting. This is a TVT. That's okay. It's scary, but it's okay. You can see the immediate factory and then a tech lab going down. This is the advantage of having two gases. The tech lab is a little early. You should have a Marine or Reaper or something along those lines. Because, again, you could have a Reaper coming in. On the other side of the map, we have a command center and an orbital underway. I would have this orbital underway as well. Stock price production of orbitals. Reason being, each mule is 350 minerals, or 350 minerals. And so you get more out of it which is basically a brand new command center for every rule you drop, versus building the extra SCV, which is, can be problematic. This SCV, I would literally set it as patrol right here, so we cannot land that factory there without having to deal with it. It's a great delay, great way to hurt your opponent if you're playing TBT, and really, really annoying to deal with. It slows down their build order, puts them out of sync, all that kind of stuff, and all you lose is an SCV that you're scouting with anyways. We have Marine production. I would put it at the top of the ramp. Reapers do win one-on-one against the Marines. I think it's... If you position yourself correctly, when you have 3 Reapers, you can kill infinite Marines, assuming you just kite properly. Don't get caught on anything, yada, yada, yada. Second gas coming down. As soon as you start a factory, generally speaking, you'll fire it going down. Bunker at the front, not a bad choice. This is more of a Protoss build. What you would see is a tech lab out of here, a tank, usually cubby back here somewhere. The reason being is you're going to have the jump up here. And it appears that he's not doing that. He has lots and lots and lots of money. He should have had the tech lab being produced by his barracks after the first couple of years. He's still floating a lot of money. Probably could throw down a command center. He doesn't have the saturation right. Not enough gas coming in. Has the expansion. Great. Good job. But you can see he's got idle workers and such. Things to be worried about. Obviously, these players are in gold. Things that are important. I see him getting ready to defend by repairing this bunker. Well, there's a tank. That's a great idea. The downside is how are you going to break it? You don't have your own tank. Your own tank is 30 seconds away plus. You need to be in a position in a way to hit that. Where's your starport? Where's your Banshee? Where's your Liberator? Where's your drop to be right on top of it? In this instance, what's going to end up happening is this tank is going to shell this indiscriminately, basically forever. You're not producing any units of it in your own tank. And a couple of barracks, or a barracks and starport here. But this is just a situation that's just not going to be fun. I guess he did see it, or he's played him enough times to know that's what he's going to do. This medevac could cause a lot of havoc. Put himself right here, put the Marines in the other tank, kill a bunch of SCVs, game's over. Again, better vision, the Marines were forward. Got him before the medevac got there. The second tank coming in was able to knock down that bunker. He might have been able to spread and been able to get in one real close, but as of right now, this air superiority, he could just slowly walk these forward, one hex at a time, making sure that he has vision. Just on the edge and kill his tank, no problem. Or unsiege all 3 and literally walk in and kill it. And because you could just walk all the way in and punch it in the face with these 3 tanks, you can see he's going to be doing the siege method, which is perfectly fine. So this isn't really a 1-1-1 push because there's no Liberator, which is an option. It's okay to do what we're doing here. I would probably do a Liberator at this point. You already have air control with Vikings. You can see that your opponents aren't really managing anything. You've already killed their bunker. They don't have enough army to stop you. This game is over. Unless Yellow is able to get out a couple of Vikings and another couple of tanks and a bunch of other units to try and deal with this, which obviously he's struggling to, and he decides to put some supply depots in. We're going to pause this for just a second so we can kind of take a really good assessment of what's happening. We have a orbital command that was on location, a bunker that was there to protect it. The bunker got pushed away by one tank, and then a second tank arrived before the first tank that was here was able to do anything to fight the tank that was here. He did kill 4 Marines that were pushed up a little bit far. Makes sense, a great position, no big deal. But stopped repairing the bunker, or / didn't add more SCVs when the second tank arrived. At this point, he needs to salvage it, pull back, and then when he sees any kind of unsieging, run forward. The third tank comes in, and he's just in all hell kinds of problems. It's not going to be a good game. Very easily for him to break out. The Vikings make it so it's very hard for him to use a Liberator. And of course, needing to get himself up a couple of Vikings at the same time. This is a good play if you had lifted off your barracks and put the starport on it so that you're out and getting that production that much earlier. Reactors are very slow to build. Tech labs are a little bit faster. That would have been a good way to make it so that you could have gotten that out earlier. The other thing that we're having an issue is we have 1,400 minerals. Imagine that was all Hellions, Marines, an extra command center, getting the gas that you needed because you're completely starved and you never actually saturated it fully, and so on and so forth. Just a lot of minor mistakes. These are things that happen when you're in gold. That's perfectly normal, perfectly okay. Getting stim, combat shield, those kind of things. Or because you are going to be facing a lot of tanks, just start pumping a bunch of Marauders. Not a bad set of choices there. This is going to get pushed off. You can either send it way down here, send it over here, send it over here. But this is pretty much going to be great that you had all the extra production of SCVs, but you're not able to actually leverage it. So maybe a medevac and sneaking it out, making it a hidden base, something along those lines. Or just pulling it straight back into your base and just making it so that you have vision of him dropping on you and preventing that from occurring. Or at least reducing the likelihood and making him having to move his tank up here, so it's harder for him to do that, so on and so forth. He is rallying everything across, so you can see you have a Viking, another tank, and a Marine. Perfectly normal, except for if you get anything over here, he loses the game. Because the game becomes much more interesting because he no longer has anything producing at home, giving him income. He is spending his money better than you, so you can see that he has more units, more everything. You lost a handful, but so did he. I believe your losses are actually comparable other than the tank. So this is 3 SCVs, the tank, and 3 Marines. I don't have the overlay that gives me all the units because this is just a regular 1v1. They didn't use any of the overlay things where you can go, oh, I'm going to do control and all that could, or control losses is what it is, if I remember correctly, so you can't see it. In addition to that, both players the teal player has stopped producing SCVs. At this point, he has you contained. Build a command center. That's a good play to make it so he can move forward. Continue building those SCVs, all that good stuff. He has continuous production off these 3 buildings. That's normal and cool. He does have superiors or air superiority. A Liberator might be useful for your tanks that are inevitably going to come out. He knows you're going to build tanks because you have tanks. That being said, this is I used to do this build a little bit more refined, but not bad. Not a bad build. Remember, I'm a diamond player. That was about 6 months to a year ago. The reason I stopped doing it is because cyclones are so common and powerful. And I also am fully aware that if this does not work, the game is essentially over. And I just didn't want to be in a situation where it was happening. This is a range thing. You might want to use a scan instead of losing that tank. Or pull it back, repair it, and then use your Vikings to push your opponent off. Try and focus on one, and then get the SCVs or the Marines to fight them if they're not on hold position. And since they are not, or they were on hold position, hitting one and then pulling back and making sure you repair. Never get below half health if he has 2 Vikings. Just losing basically his tanks. He's just going to keep shelling you. This is going to be a continuously slow burn. He's going to keep moving up units, making sure his tanks are protected. And unfortunately, will not be able to get enough tanks out in range without getting more Vikings. Vikings is your priority right now, and then you can throw out a Liberator or what have you. Hold position. Don't want to take any damage from any of that stuff. Again, scans. He's pushed you back, reduced your vision. Also, set your rally to behind, and you can see he's doing scans too. So, pretty annoying, I know. And then, of course, he has a superior army, and that's, I believe, the game in a couple of seconds. Yeah, we're pausing right there. So, he did expand behind this. He did not. He did fix his oversaturation here. You can see he's moving over more workers. He got extra gases, more barracks production, a lot of idle workers. Make sure you do your F1, Control I, F1 or Control F1, so you can grab all those units and send them where you need to go. Pretty straightforward. This is a 1-1-1, but it's not the 1-1-1 that you traditionally think about. The traditional 1-1-1 actually has a second base inside of that build much earlier. This is a 1-1-1 rush. Not a bad choice, but something to be thinking about when you kind of talk about what's going on, all that kind of stuff. Now, that was the first game that this person released when they put out the request for what's kind of going on. And then they also gave us a second game. And this is also Terran v Terran. The same 2 players. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. We're just going to desktop. This is number 2. And we're going to go ahead and do that as well. As you can see, they have this supply block that happens that we all expect. We do have some supply blocks that are up here again, and later on. And you can see a variation where the armies change and what happens. So this is going to be a different game, obviously. But I want you to just be cognizant and ready to go with regards to how that is. Did I actually put out that replay? I don't know if I did. I did not. So, and then of course, teal tip the victory. Pretty straightforward with that. So we're going to go into game 2 with these two players. You can see that this is occurring. This is another match between them. I would imagine that they did the same build. He's probably learning. One of them is about 400 MMR over the other. Basically, gold 3 versus gold 1. Maybe a little closer than that, but pretty similar. So we have red in the red, and we have KurtMage in the yellow. I believe that is the same as they did last time, but don't quote me on that. This player, red, was teal, if I remember correctly. He's doing the same concept. He's putting his stuff really close. I guess he's been tank pushed a lot and wants to have a supply here. That might be what's going on. Again, misordering his build order. You don't want to be in a situation where you're not building the CVs. It's okay to delay your barracks if you're going to do your refinery early. The reason that you do your refinery early and then a second refinery is so that you can get a Reaper out and a factory at the same time. That's literally why you do it in this order. There are differences. Yes, continue to build your SCVs, please. Or you could get, a reactor instead of a tech lab. Very, 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 very fast. So then you can pump out 2 cyclones, and that'll completely shut down the push that you're looking at. Again, part of the reason I stopped that build. Your opponent is doing the same build. He hasn't walled off yet. Once he got this command center in, is when you want to kind of put that down. You can see he made a slight adjustment, and he's okay doing that. The factory, being a little bit earlier, is perfectly fine. He skipped his Reaper and went just a couple of Marines instead. Totally okay. It is a build order. Not a GM build order, but it is something that's not terribly weak. And he goes ahead and gets another barracks. So he's not actually going to follow a 1-1-1 build in this instance. And red did follow a 1-1-1 build and decides to grab the tank, medevac, and some Marines. I would have gotten a Viking here. The reason being is your tanks win the ground, your Vikings win the air. Your Marines cover for when your Vikings are battling away. Obviously, the tank pushing out, setting himself up. And then we're going to see KurtMage come over and repair. He does need a third SUV, if I remember correctly. Yep, there it is. And that'll get him back up to full. You just want to set him on auto repair. You just right click right there. It's busy. Obviously, continuing to pump your tanks and Vikings. And once you have a superior of about 3 or 4, you go ahead and grab a Liberator to shut down any tank that ever shows up. You don't have to worry about it. You can see there's another tank here. He's on the high ground. Great. You're shutting down his expansion. That's a great idea. But he is supply blocked. So he made the mistake of not getting himself supply. Again, not fully saturated here. And is under stress and therefore does not do a great job of spending his money. This is a hallmark of players that are in gold, basically. Once things don't go to plan, you kind of just don't do stuff as expected. Things are very off. You have mules that are idle. You pull incorrectly. You get supply blocked. You just are in a situation where the game kind of falls apart because you received a little bit of pressure. We're going to go ahead and back this up maybe a little bit of time here. And we're going to kind of just look at what happened before the supply block occurred. You see that the 2 tanks take out the bunker perfectly fine. Again, this is more of a Protoss thing, especially since you have tanks. They'll shut down any bunkers pretty quickly and easily. There was no Reaper play. You're in gold. That's kind of okay. Not a big deal. I see you're getting ready to expand. That's perfectly good. You have him contained. You're pushing him back. You're making it so you are in a base advantage, not the deficit. You're getting air superiority. You're building Vikings. You're protecting yourself from Liberators with Marines, and of course your Viking. This is a decent setup for red. It is possible for yellow to get out. They just need to they need a starport earlier, not the second barracks. They needed to make sure they had a significant number of tanks and Marines as fast as possible, and make sure they fully saturate here and make sure they're spending their money. They could have gotten another command center. They could have gotten a starport. They could have gotten 4 more, 3 or 4 barracks, and then started pumping a bunch of marauders. Marauders do actually defeat tanks if you get enough of them. So in this instance, there's 2 tanks. There'll be a 3rd one pretty soon. There it is. If he had spent all of this money on marauders and barracks to produce more marauders, so what is that? Maybe 5 marauders. He could take these 2 tanks pretty easily, and this 3rd one wouldn't have made it all the way on this push. That being said, it is gold. I don't expect you to be perfect. Just kind of be aware that you need to make sure that you're constantly producing things. Make sure you don't get supply capped. And then when you get into a frustrating situation, just give yourself a single breath. Say, okay, I'm under attack. What do I need to do? And then look at what they're doing with what you can see. And then formulate what they're going to continue to do. And make sure that you know what to look for. If your opponent is doing this kind of push, you need to make sure you have more tanks, stuff that can tank shots like marauders, or you win in the air. And at this point, yellow doesn't have the ability to get to air. That's way too far away. We're looking at a game that he could continue to play a little bit longer than another minute, but is going to be in a situation where he's going to be constantly pushed back. So he needs to build a couple of supply depots, get that starport going, etc. if he wants to go that route. If he wants to go the marauder route, you literally lift this, drop it over here. You don't need concussive. You're worried about tanks. But you need to get your stim going so you can get engaged with the tanks. The Marines lead the charge, and you just focus fire the tanks really, really hard. You don't worry about the Vikings so much in that situation. You just say, you know what, you have the air, I don't care. And you literally just take out the tanks, then work on the Marines, and then from that point, they should scurry home because the Vikings cannot deal with the Marauders, so on and so forth. That is not a GM level analysis or response, but it is a great way to get through this kind of army comp that you see here. You just you get that tech lab, start building Marauders only. That's a good way to handle getting through this. Each tank, you need about 3 Marauders to get through it, plus a handful of Marines behind or ahead of them so that they can take the initial shots. Spread them out. So if they get like this ramp choke, you're really in trouble. So you want to try and stay down here as long as you can so you can keep yourself spread out. So you can put a couple Marines, 2 or 3 Marines, 2 or 3 Marauders, 2 or 3 Marines, 2 or 3 Marauders, and then move yourself at him. Or click the tanks with your stick. But there's a lot of forethought and knowledge and all that kind of stuff that needs to come into play. One way to prevent this would literally be take your SCV that finishes the barracks, send it across. Or once you start your barracks, take an SCV, send it across. See how much gas they're getting. See if they have the factory under construction. Do they have a tech lab or a reactor attached? The reactor takes 36 seconds. Tech lab is only 18. It's real quick. Do they have their starport started? Where is their supply? Do they have a natural under construction or already present? So on and so forth. Now, I did talk a lot there, so I'm going to very, very quickly jump from this. I have my own replays and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to do a custom game. I'm just going to kind of play with the mod so I can pull up all of the different losses and stuff and do a Terran build that is that equivalency where you just go and get your 1-1-1, but you also get that command center. The reason that you do that build is because you're looking to get a Raven out as fast as possible to protect you from BCs, because you're going to have a Cyclone as well. In addition, you also are going to have a bunch of Marines, and you're going to be able to protect yourself from a lot of different stuff, be able to fight those kind of things. That's a little bit delayed, no big deal. I always like to rally my SCVs to the top of my ramp. And I know this episode's getting a little long, fun. But you can see I was like, oh, let's keep building an SCV. Make sure we continue to do that. It's okay for you to queue up your SCVs. This map is a little long, so I was a little bit slow on the supply depot. It's not much time. I like a certain setup. You don't have to follow my setup, all that kind of stuff. I am using shift queuing to manage where my SCVs go. You don't have to do that. I'm being a little cheeky with that. You can see that I built the refinery beforehand. No big deal. I have my SCV already queued. You can see I delayed the barracks just ever so slightly. I can go down and get my command center and do that build. Or I can not. It's not a big deal. I am moving that, and I'm going to build another refinery. This is so I can get my Reaper out. Again, if you are in gold, it's okay to not build a Reaper. You want to make sure that we are fully saturating our refineries as soon as we get them. The reason that we want to fully saturate our refineries is, well, we made the investment. We know we're going to go 1-1-1. We want to build that up. In this instance, I am going to be doing what I can to get there as fast as I can. This is the one base variant. Notice that I'm getting ready to scout. I'm coming across, I want to know exactly what they're going to be doing. I'm going to be looking for if they have a factory, if they're going to do this, do that, all those other wonderful things. I am waiting for the gas. I was a little bit slow in the first one. That's my fault. That's why that is that way. And then this second one is a little bit slow as well. So now I can scout what they've done. I find, oh, I'm okay. Go ahead and do that. Send that SCV back. Make sure I don't get supply blocked. Because we're going to shift. We're getting a Reaper. If you want to build the reactor instead, because it's just your skill level, that's okay. Again, we want to make sure we're building our SCVs there at top priority. Continue. This comes back. You can have it patrol here. If you see something funny, you can have it patrol a little bit farther out, like out here, so that there's stuff. But your Reaper is also going to make it so you have some information. And you don't want to be too crazy with what you do. And these are a couple different things you can do. I'm just clicking stuff because I'm talking. You want to either go a Cyclone. So you go, oh, I want a Cyclone. And you build your Marines, and then you start and get yourself into the command center out here. Right? You're going to put yourself in a situation where you have the command center. You're going to get that Raven as fast as you can. You're going to make yourself protected. Again, Ravens are much higher level, probably something you don't want to do in gold. You can get your Cyclone and then go for your tech labs, get your factory out there as fast as possible, or your tank out rather fast, and you have yourself protected, and you have all of the information you need. You can see I'm continuing to build SCVs. I'm getting myself my air superiority. I have the gas. We're getting ready to do what we need to do. We can go Raven, right? Or we can get our Viking. We have a Cyclone to just protect us, right? Our Reaper has gone across the map, done damage. We're going to flip back and forth with that, depending on your skill level, all that good stuff. Viking, start with some Marines, make sure you build your SCVs, tank, and then you're going to be supply capped. Whee! Build your supply depot in a very safe position. Way back here is a wonderful place. You got to be careful because you're going to get drops. Sometimes you want to put it way out here. Oh, we're supply capped. You're really bad, Ritho. I am talking, trying to go through a bunch of different things, thinking about different scenarios. And you can see that we're building up what's going on. This Reaper, you would want to have pulled it back already. It's either going to die already or not. Your Cyclone, you want to kind of have it in a position where you can get, so if they're dropping their units here, doing stuff here. Then your tank, you want to kind of position back a little bit. You're going to continue to build those. Vikings, you want to position it so you can deal with drops, so on and so forth. This is not a perfect representation of what you can do and should do, but you get a good idea of kind of the thought processes and stuff that you can do. The bunker, for a gold level, it makes sense. I understand why you're doing it. Generally, you don't want to do that unless you're playing against Protoss. And as of right now, the meta, Protoss is going to do a lot of crazy stuff. And so you got to be kind of aware of that. You want to have your tank in a position where you can have where this tank can protect it if they run in. And then of course your Cyclone is just patrolling around and make sure you're dropping your mules, make sure you're building your supplies, make sure you continue to give your supply. And then start thinking about your next expansion moves. And if you want to tech out what paths you want to go, are you going to go BC? Are you going to go Libs? Are you going to go more Vikings? Like, what are you going to do? Armories, tech labs, blah, 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 blah. At this point, my build is already broken down sufficiently that it's no longer useful. But you saw that I was continuously spending my money, making sure that I was able to continue to do things the whole time. Not in a situation where I'm going to get supply capped. I want to make sure I have a little bit of headroom, especially if they're going to try and push my front door, so on and so forth. But I think you get the idea of what you kind of need to think about and are doing for the build. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good rest of the day. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to give me feedback, give me more answers. I know I'm not a GM. If you aren't a GM and you want to give me more feedback so I can be more useful, please do. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. Oh, wait. I forgot. Sorry. We're at 30 minutes. Kind of look at this a little bit. With your supply blocks, not a big deal. This is the second game we watched. But you need to make sure that you have a plan. Make sure you understand what you're doing. Red did a great job of doing a 1-1-1 on a single base. And then getting into an expansion once he knew he had his opponent contained. Yellow didn't really put himself in a position to do very much against a Terran. Terrans are going to have tanks or BCs. Generally speaking, you might see some Liberators and obviously some drops and or Cyclones. Those are the big things. Cyclone's a pretty big thing right now, so you got to be ready to handle those. So you need to have your own tanks, your own Cyclones, your own Vikings. Those are your big protectors. Marines can also do it if you've got the micro potential for it, but you kind of need to be aware that it's going to require you to have an income of about 140, 150 to be able to move the Marines and Marauders and such in a way that helps you sufficiently enough in a combat situation where they're going to be dropping on you and sieging your front and all that other stuff. So bio is very squishy, and if you don't have the attention span to be able to continuously produce stuff at home at the same time that you're managing your units or very close, where you're at home for 2-3 seconds, put down 3 barracks and then you're back, you probably need to avoid bio to some degree because it requires that attention and that pressure on your opponent. I do like the idea of bio. Just it requires a lot of actions and thoughts, and you're not quite that. I'm barely getting to the level where I can really use bio appropriately. Or you want to do something that's very specific and you are looking for a timing. Like you want 16 Marines to drop on your opponent at approximately 5:30. That's a great thing to do. Unfortunately, your opponent, if they're doing the 1-1, Cyclones, etc., you're in a lot of trouble. And of course, having Stim Combat Shield with that, or Stim at the very least with those Marines. Your first game, where red was teal and yellow was KurtMage again. He did the build a little bit more efficiently than you did. And can I give me 1 second? And I don't know if that replay. This is what I'm gonna do. I don't know if that replay, if I loaded it, I could get to the same page that you're looking at with the information, because the game basically ended super early. And so I don't want to it's not been parsed yet, so I gotta, this is my own fault for doing things live, right? But that kind of, it's good to have a comparison point. And I remember, I'm only in Diamond and I don't play that build anymore. I played it a little bit. It's not a bad build by any means. Just understand that when you see a lot of Cyclones and tanks, which there's a lot of mech, right now is a viable strategy. Where you see a BC build can beat that build pretty easily, especially if they're really smart about delaying you on pushing into their supply depots. But yeah, it's one of those weird situations where the build has a great hit point. Like, it hits really early, really strong. It's really annoying to deal with. But if your opponents have Reapers, they'll just run around. If they go BC, they just teleport to your base. You're game over. You have to win off of that stuff, and they're going to produce another BC probably before you can kill their starport. And because they're going to have a tank at home too. You're also looking at Cyclones, which will shut that down real fast. You can also have a bio with Marauder play in there. There's a lot of ways that you can just end the game against you. But it is, if people aren't expecting it and you get that siege up and you have the 2 or 3 Marines, you have a medevac or a Viking there, you can absolutely cause some headaches. And that's one of those kind of things I'm trying to get to my own dashboard. So Last replay. It says that it's done with its analysis. Not private. Oh. Most recent. Nah, it's not gonna. It won't give it to me, and I don't know why. So it's my own fault. But yeah, the point that I'm trying to articulate is basically scout. Make sure you see what they're doing. If you see them doing that, well, try and make it so that you're going to counter it. Get that Liberator really fast. Get that Viking really fast so you can land it on their tank. Make sure that you are, or build a pair of Cyclones before that tank gets there, and make sure you push out and attack them on their way over. Make sure that you have a plan, a game plan, and try and stick to it. I know pressure comes in, and oh my god, the world's ending, I'm being attacked by a tank and a couple of Marines, and oh my god, it's so hard to do. I get it. Everybody, that's stress. That's what happens in the game. And the final, you can see I have my stream over there, I'm sorry. And the last thing is that you make sure that you are being aware of what you can do to, like, anticipate their next move. They're not going to have the income. That command center, that second command center, if they do that early build, they're hitting you at, like, that super early, like 3 minutes and change, 4 minutes in that area timing. They don't have that command center. They can't afford it. So if you can keep your SCVs alive and get yourself broken out before they get to that second tank stage, you're okay. So you can, like, time it, right? Oh, the tank shot fired off. Unload your Marines so that they attack. Pull your SCVs on an attack, and you can get to that tank, kill it, and kill the 2 Marines that are there to tank it. You're going to take some losses, but guess what? They don't have that expansion, and you do. And you get a tank on the way. That makes it so that their next tank that shows up can't get sieged, and you're already sieged up and ready to go, and you're ready to do a Viking by the time they do, and you're producing Marines behind all of it. I know that's a lot to do as a Go player. But yeah, I truly wish you the best of luck. Good games, and I can see why you kind of struggle with it and get a good idea of why things are going the way they're going. Thanks so much.